Over the past 12 days, Ukrainian drones have disabled 5 large Russian oil refineries at once, completely stopping their operations. Production lines have frozen, oil refining is not taking place, finished products, gasoline, diesel, aviation fuel are not being produced. Warehouses are emptying and logistics within Russia are starting to stall. Each attack entails expensive repairs and months of downtime. While equipment is being restored, millions of tons of oil remain unclaimed, and the Kremlin is forced to either export the excess volume at reduced prices or mothball wells, the launch of which will then require colossal expenses. Losses are growing every day, and the Russian fuel market is getting closer to price shock. Since the beginning of August, the following have been affected. Ryazan oil refinery, 13.1 million tons of oil refining per year. Novokuybishevsky refinery, 8.3 million tons a year. Afipsky oil refinery, 7.02 million tons a year. Saratov oil refinery, 7.0 million tons a year. Volgograd oil refinery, 14.8 million tons a year. All these enterprises have been stopped. Oil is not accepted for processing, and repairs and restoration will take months. The latest strike hit the Volgograd refinery of Lukoil, one of the largest in the country. It processes about 300,000 barrels of oil per day and supplies fuel to southern Russia, with some of the products exported. After drone strikes, there were oil spills and a large fire on the plant's territory, which took all night to extinguish. According to Bloomberg, the strikes on refineries coincided with the peak of summer demand for gasoline and diesel, which could cause a fuel shortage and accelerate price growth in Russia. An additional blow will be the forced mothballing of oil wells, which will then be difficult to restore. The systemic destruction of oil refining infrastructure reduces the Russian Federation's ability to provide the army with fuel, reduces export revenues, and undermines the stability of the economy in the midst of war. Since Russia launched its full-scale military assault on Ukraine in February 2022, Kiev has responded with drone strikes on Russian infrastructure hundreds of kilometers from its border. Kyiv calls the strikes fair retaliation for Moscow's daily missile and drone barrages on its own civilians.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday that his country had secured the release of 84 people from Russian captivity, including both soldiers and civilians. According to Associated Press, footage from the Coordination Headquarters for the Treatment of Prisoners of War shows Ukrainian POWs arriving in buses and greeting each other. Almost all of them need medical care and significant rehabilitation, Zelensky wrote on Telegram, adding that those freed included people held by Russia since 2014, 2016 and 2017, as well as soldiers who had defended the now Russian-occupied Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Russia's Ministry of Defense said Thursday that it too had received 84 soldiers as part of a prisoner exchange. President Donald Trump says his meeting in Alaska with Russian President Vladimir Putin will be a big meeting and is going to be a good meeting, but that the more important meeting is the second meeting we're having with Putin and Zelensky. In comments to reporters in the Oval Office, the president suggested he may even bring in European leaders for the second discussion after meeting with Putin. Trump said he believes that both Putin and Zelensky want to make peace. Asked if he might offer a rare earth minerals deal with Russia as part of his discussions with Putin, Trump said, "We're going to see what happens with our meeting," but he also suggested that such minerals were very unimportant. Trump also rejected the notion that the summit on U.S. soil is a win for Putin, insisting, "I don't think it's a reward." Some analysts have suggested that, simply by agreeing to meet with Putin on U.S. soil, Trump is undermining long-standing U.S. and international efforts to isolate Putin and Russia. "He's not going to mess around with me," Trump said of Putin.
Are you prepared to offer Vladimir Putin access to rare minerals to incentivize him to end the war?
We're going to see what happens with our meeting. We have a big meeting. It's going to be, I think, very important for Russia, and it's going to be very important for us, and important for us only that we're going to save a lot of lives. Look, we have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great. You know, I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now. And I'm very proud of it. I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult.
Mr. President, on DC crime.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Do you think this summit and the incentives for peace you are putting on the table could end up rewarding Putin for his invasion of Ukraine? And what kind of signal do you think that could potentially send to other aggressors?
No, I don't think it's a reward. I think that what we have is a situation that should never have started, should have never started. It didn't start under me, and for 4 years it wasn't even discussed. And I could see it was going to happen after I left. I could see what was happening. Everything that we did was wrong. Everything that was done was wrong. Everybody's to blame. Putin's to blame. They're all to blame. This is a war that would have never happened.
The other question, Mr. President, does Putin have a strong hand tomorrow?
Well, he came to our country, and I heard CNN fake news talking about that was a big win for him. Normally, you would say the opposite, but they said, "Oh, it's a big win that he came here." Normally, we would say the opposite. You know, he came here. I think that President Putin would like to see a deal. I think if I weren't president, he would take over all of Ukraine. It's a war that should have never happened. If I weren't president, in my opinion, he would much rather take over all of Ukraine. But I am president, and he's not going to mess around with me.
Mr. President,
would you support or agree to reducing NATO troops in Europe, in countries like Poland, in order to get Russia to agree to a peace deal?
That hasn't been put before me, and I'll think about that for later, but it has not been put before me. Go ahead.
Is anything less than an unconditional and immediate ceasefire a victory for the U.S.?
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, tomorrow we'll see. I say, you know, I don't know where that comes from. It's sort of not a good question. I would say that tomorrow all I want to do is set the table for the next meeting, which should happen shortly. I'd like to see it happen very quickly, very shortly after this meeting. I'd like to see it actually happen maybe in Alaska, where we just stay because it's so much easier. But I think that it's going to be very interesting. We're going to find out where everybody stands, and I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting. And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future. Okay? How about one more?